It's a bit windy today. So I've got a dewalt fitness planer, and I've opened it up just so I can have a look inside, because I have a problem with dust collection everywhere, because as the blades here rotate and this little fan spins up in here, it pushes air through this port and out through the shroud that normally sits over here like this. Now all the tips come flying out the back, and of course they go everywhere. They stay on the machine, they go all over the floor and make a huge mess. So I could buy a shroud for this for some monies, but I'm a cheap bugger and I don't want to. So I'm going to adjust the existing dewalt one that comes with the device. What I'm actually going to do is take some thin 6mm stock, and I'm going to insert it under the top here and just have it sitting flat at the bottom here, and then have it sit out about 150mm, 15 centimeters, and put my dust collection smack in the middle. And I'm going to continue to use this piece on the top as well, and I found myself some fairly long screws that will go into the existing holes. You can see I've got some nice long ones here, and here's the originals. So they do have an attachment for this. Like I said, $30-40. It hooks on here and here and down here, but I don't have any cash to spend on it at the moment. I just want a solution today. So I'm going to be using some ply I've got lying around, and you can see I've already kind of roughly marked out what I'm going to be doing. Here's the 6mm thin stuff at top and bottom, and then so I have something to grab onto for screws and glues. I've got the kind of the two side pieces and the back piece. Guys, remember, it's just going to be an open fronted box that's going to sit kind of like that on the jointer, on the planer, because this bit needs to be inserted into that gap at the top. So it has to fit in under here in order to then sit like that. So it's going to mean I'm going to probably take off these or flatten out these particular bits in the baffle. They're designed to shoot the dust down, or I could possibly just cut my attachment thin, because there's a gap here in the there we go, there's a section there I could cut out and just insert into, and then the rest of it could rest on the top of this, which would support it enough, because all we're looking here for is enough. Anyway, I'm going to get to that, and then we'll get to some assembly after some cutting. Alright, so here's our parts. Two small side bits, a base bit. So they just go on there like that. Now these are 6mm and 12mm ply. So that goes on there like that. And this piece, you can see some of my rough markings up on it, goes on the top. And you can see that's where the hose should be connected. Small indent here to match the back of the router plate, which I don't actually have there, which I have over here. So a small indent section, so I'll mark that up on there so that that'll fit in nicely. But thus far it's about the right height and everything, so it's quite simple. It's taken me about 8 minutes to cut up with some interruptions from my son, because it's so few pieces. We'll just screw and glue that after I cut this hole and make sure these bits fit. Alright, so here it is, all glued up and screwed up. As you can see, it's a very unexciting box with a hole on top. That's where the and it will sit about here, and it will catch a crap ton of crap. At least that is the intent for it, is to catch a crap ton of crap. It sits above the underneath. You can see that. Sits above it nicely, just by a couple of mil, which means everything will get out fine. Hose goes in the top so it doesn't get in the way. And yeah, I get to test this out shortly. So I'm pretty happy with how simple and straightforward and easy that is. Just to make up, I might actually make up another panel to go on top of here for the insert to go in, because I don't want to push it inside, because then it will get sort of disrupt its ability to suck up bits and pieces. Though could have been clever and sort of baffled this in so that everything goes into the center where this sits, but I can't be bothered, to be quite honest. I think that should be fine. If it becomes a real problem, I'll just cut some pieces and insert them so it forces all the dust to the center, and see how we go. Which is kind of contrary to what the device itself wants to do, because it has a splitter that sits about here that pushes air left and right, pushing things out the side, which is pretty much what you see when you're chomping. It tends to push the dust typically and the shavings out one side. But I'll hook this thing up and then I'll give it a go. Alright, so here we are a couple of days later with a few modifications to it. You'll notice it doesn't have the elongations up here on the ply that I had earlier in the video, because I thought about it as I'm putting this in here. It sits at the same height as this currently, but it then pushes these sections up. Now that would be great and all if this plate here didn't also hold down a safety catch that stops the blade from spinning whilst you have the cover open. Because when you open the cover and you want to take the blades out, there's actually a catch there that stops the blades from spinning so that you can A, be safe, even in case you are an idiot and have it plugged in, or B, stops it from spinning so that you can actually focus on the one set of bolts. So that cover actually needs to sit nice and low and tight. The other thing was that edge felt a little bit small and flimsy. I didn't think it would hold the weight. So I'm just going to end up using these side screws and just putting some screws or bolts through those into the actual wood, and that sits quite nicely. It sits above, you can see it sits a couple of mil above, which means it's got good clearance. And you can see I've just glued these sections on, just drilled a big hole out of them, same size as the one in there, so that when I take the hose I can just quick attach and detach, because I only have the one system over there in the corner. That's going to have to do all the dust collection from various spots, and it'll probably get wheeled around, so it's just going to go jam in there, and it sits in there nicely because it's in the top. It doesn't go away because it's sucking. Of course, it holds itself in, and it's quite deep actually. If you can see that, that's I think 12. No, that's 15 mil and 50 mil. So that's 30 mil plus 6 mil. That's 36 mil deep, and the black of the actual hose actually pops out the bottom of that. So, but it has a ring on it, so it sits on the top. So I'm going to bolt that in now, and then I'm going to give it a bit of a trial. Don't say I don't give you hardcore awesomeness. Okay, sorry about the sun. So as you can see, that's how it sits on the back. This just slots in. The screws are in the side. But I had to put a little bit of extra ply on the inside to make sure that had enough to grab onto and hold it up. You can see under there's our bit of wood. Yep, and it's all clear. It's not going to bump on that. At least it doesn't feel like it is. Nope. Alright, everything's plugged in, ready to go. So I'm going to get the dust extraction on. Okay, it's going to get noisy. Are you ready for this? High quality infotainment. And so with this particular setup, you can see I'm going to feed the wood through multiple times, fairly thin passes to start, just to make sure it's all rolling, as I only have one hand free because I'm operating the camera as well. I'm very happy with the dust extraction performance. There are some minor problems that I do need to raise. I like it better this way than with the little prongs that would have sat under the existing shroud. This way, the screws going from the side, they can be easily removed. Because of where it sits, it doesn't stop me from lifting this all the way to the top or putting it all the way to the bottom. The dust extraction stuff does get stuck in the back corners. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I might shove some baffles in there to make sure that they slide across, so the wood is actually pushed to the middle where the extraction can get it. On longer sessions, a bit of dust gets through. Like I fed through a ton of wood, probably about 4 pieces that are about 2 meters long, and another 8 or so pieces that are about 1 meter long. And so that meant that there was a lot of wood dust that needed to be collected, and it did a very admirable job. I got a very small amount out of there, so a vast improvement. So I'm pretty happy with this design. Cost me nothing at all. Just existing scraps of ply around the place. If you wanted to do this and use a slightly different, like just one sheet of ply, you could do it very easily. I just used the thin ply because it meant I could just get it built pretty quick and use some scraps.
You could use all 12mm ply, I reckon. I wouldn't go all 6mm because then you've got nothing to sort of bond and grab to. And I used the 6mm just because it meant it was thinner and a bit lighter. It does work very well. Very happy with it. It did slouch a bit here. You can see on the back edge as the wood comes through that the wood will touch at the very end. Now that problem is basically being alleviated by pushing the resting the tube over the top of the thickness planer. So I just kind of fold the just before the handle, and that tends to fix that problem. But mind you, it doesn't stop the wood going through, so it just kind of grazes it as it goes through, and it just pushes the dust collection section up. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it's gone.
I'm happy with the dust collection. I mean, my good old thickness planer has a few little marks in the wood. I mean, but it's taken wood off. This is just some old thick ash, mountain ash framing timber that's often found here in Melbourne, Victoria, probably around Australia, Tassie, Vic, New South Wales, different names. Not a lot of crap left inside. Happy with that. Looks like a lot went into the box. Let's see if it got sucked out the box. Yeah, looks like it got sucked out of the box. Let's put the light on for your entertainment pleasure. Ooh, not a lot of dust in there. And not a lot of dust in there. So it looks like it did its job. Okay, I'm going to call that a relative success. Relative success indeed. Alright, I'm happy with that. Leaves and germs. Again, of course, you can see my high quality, high value workshop slowly coming together. Well, I'm going to rig that up and I'm going to call that closed. Just some scrappy ply, and now I don't have dust all over here where I normally would. Well, that's from the table saw. That's a different project.